Hey, Shalom Akim. First, foremost, give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bashim Yahushai, Bashim Achah Kudash, double honors unto the elders of Apostle Millstone, the elders of Millstone, and of course, peace and blessings unto the hopeful elect, the sincere servants of Yahweh, Bashim Yahushai, serving him in truth and sincerity. Yes, I'm brother Chayabar from GMS Plaintails Camp, come back with another lesson to his spirit. So recently, Colombia just had a 7.4 earthquake, and Yahushai named earthquakes as one of the signs of the times of the end. So what are we supposed to be doing while all these signs are happening? And what are we supposed to be looking for? It says Luke 21:9. Start at verse 7. It says, and they asked him, saying, Master, but when shall these things be? And what sign will there be when these things shall come to pass? And he said, take heed that ye be not deceived, for many shall come on my name, saying, I am a Mashiach, and the time draweth near. Go ye not therefore after them. So the disciples were asking Yahushai what the end days would look like, and what sign will there be when these things shall come to pass. So the disciples were asking Yahushai, what will be the point that will show that they are at that time? It says verse 8, and he said, take heed that ye be not deceived, for many shall come on my name, saying, I am a Mashiach, and the time draweth near. Go ye not therefore after them. So false prophets, ones coming as if they are of the anointed, but they are not. And we know that by the words they speak. If they speak not according to this law or to this testimony, we know that there is no light in them. It says verse 9, but when ye shall hear wars and commotions, be not terrified, for these things must first come to pass, but the end is not by and by. So what be not terrified is a command by Yahushai. It's not an option that he's giving. It's a command. So the servants of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai are commanded not to be terrified. So we are supposed to be doing the same thing. And how for these things must first come to pass. So they must come to pass. So when we see these wars happening, we're not surprised because we already know it's going to happen. We're watching things that are happening according to that which is written. It says, but the end is not by and by. So not immediately. One event doesn't mean that the nuclear war is going to pop off and Babylon the Great is going to be destroyed tomorrow. So the scripture proves that panic is not their correct response onto a sign that Yahushua spoke about. The world is in a state of distress and confusion. So when they see these things happening on the news, they have no footing in Yahushua, as the word hasn't been given unto them. But the elect of the nation of Israel have it, which we hope to be a part of. And we've been called to this thing, hoping that we are chosen. So the point is, Yahushua commanded us not to be terrified. Luke 21:10. Then he said he unto them, nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And yeah, by the way, we have many wars and commotions happening right now as we speak. Iran, Israel, the US, Russia, Ukraine, so on and so forth. A news search will simply show you everything you need to see, proving the war and commotions. It says, verse 10, then said he unto them, nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And great earthquakes shall be in divers places, and famines, and pestilences, and fearful sights, and great signs shall there be from heaven. So we're seeing internal war happening between these nations. Well, when you go into it, we went into it at camp. Sudan is in a civil war. Myanmar is in a civil war. Yemen, as well as the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, Haiti. So going down the list, you can do a simple Google search and you'll see these civil wars happening. Not to mention the brewing civil wars that are also to come. Like all this division within the United States, that's going to lead to a civil war. As well as these other countries that are having divisions. It's going to lead to a civil war within them as well. It says verse 11, and great earthquakes shall be in divers places, and famines and pestilences, And fearful sights and great signs shall there be from heaven. So that's the point. All these things will be happening. This to signify that we are at the end. And clearly we see all these things. Famines, pestilences, and fearful sights and great signs. So yeah, we're seeing food shortages. We're seeing all these different diseases happening. Coming about. And things getting worse. So it says, and fearful sights and great signs shall there be from heaven. Yeah, we're seeing chariot sightings. We're seeing things within the heavens themselves. Chariot sightings, Esau getting scared, vaguely reporting about these things. So clearly, we are in these times. One of the big ones we can clearly see is earthquakes happening. So latest one we can see right now is August 10th, 2026. It says on CNN, death toll rises to 132 in the Columbia earthquake. Association says. So it says growing death toll, at least 132 people died, 570 injured as a result of the magnitude 7.4 earthquake that struck in western Colombia, according to the Colombian Association of Capital Cities. So at least 132 people died, 570 injured as a result of the magnitude 7.4 earthquake. It says rescue efforts. Emergency responders are racing to dig people out of the rubble. Among the collapsed structures were the pediatric and neonatal sections of a hospital in Cali. The government has declared a national disaster and deployed soldiers to the area. So it says where it happened. The epicenter is located in San Jose del Palmar, in an underdeveloped area of western Colombia, about 150 miles west of Bogota. The tremor was felt strongly in the nation's capital, with alarms sounding and people evacuating to the streets as a precaution. So this connects to the scripture because Yahushua said, these things must first come to pass. And this is one of them coming to pass. In Matthew 24, Yahushua said, all these are the beginning of sorrows, meaning that things will continue to get worse. So Yahushua said diverse places. Diverse meaning various or different. Let's go and get that word for diverse, meaning in the dictionary. Several or various in number, more than one kind or sort. So the biggest one that we had happen was in Venezuela. Japan was a recent one. Now this one happening in Colombia. So it says 2 Ezra chapter 9 and 1 through 2. He answered me then and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself. And when thou seest part of these signs past, which I told thee before, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time which the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. Therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake all those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. So it says diligently, getting that word for diligently in the dictionary. It says in a careful, steady, and hard-working way, with close attention and persistent effort. So we are being commanded to measure the time diligently. How do we measure the time? By using these scriptures. Measure the time. And it says diligently, meaning it's a constant effort that we're supposed to be making. Looking at the current events and lining them up to the scriptures. Looking at what's going on and measuring it by the scriptures diligently in a constant, hard-working manner. So part of the signs are earthquakes and upwards of the people that we're supposed to be measuring. That's what verse 3 specifically mentions. So we can connect this scripture to Matthew 24, Mark 13, and Luke 21, which all mention earthquakes in diverse places. So almost every week at this point, you have a new earthquake happening around the world. A new earthquake in Asia, Europe, Americas, whatever. The point is that the earthquakes aren't stopping. And they're going to continue to get worse and increase as Yahushua is preparing to make his return. Verse 4, then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake all those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. So the Lord already mentioned these things in times past, that they will happen. And we're simply living through it now. It says Luke 21 and 28, and when these things begin to come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. So when these things begin to come to pass, then look up. So Yahushua said when they begin, Then look up, and lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. So right now, as we're seeing these things happening, we're supposed to be lifting up our heads. It says, and look up, and lift up your heads. So a man who's ashamed and afraid is going to put his head down. Someone who's defeated puts their head down. So Yahushua is saying the opposite of that, looking up with their heads up, meaning what? Rejoicing and looking up in hope. As Apostle Paul said, rejoice thou always. As the scripture says, for your redemption draweth nigh. So that's the reason. The same event that the world is going to put their heads down to is the same thing that Yahushua is telling the elect to lift up their heads to. So the redemption is our salvation. So that's what we're looking forward to. So what? In verse 9, Yahushua said, be not terrified. In verse 28, he's saying, look up and lift up your heads. So the point for the elect is that the world sees a 7.4 earthquake, and they see the world falling apart, which it is falling apart, but they don't have any hope in anything. They don't have the wisdom, knowledge, or understanding to know that these things were already spoken about. They might know that the scriptures speak about earthquakes, but they don't know what to do in these times. The elect see the same 7.4 earthquake, and what, we're not terrified. And we see that this lining up on the prophecy. So this is the same event, two different postures. And Yahushua told us in advance how to act and what to do when we see these things coming. So yeah, Luke 21:9 saying, be not terrified, for these things must first come to pass, but the end is not by and by. The article we brought out showing the 7.4 earthquake that Colombia went through. This is part of those signs that the angel spoke about in 2 Esdras 9:1 through 4. It says, what? 2 Esdras 9:1, to measure thou the time diligently. Measure the time. Do we have the date? No, but we have the time. So we're measuring time diligently in itself, using the scriptures, applying the signs that we're seeing to the scriptures. So what Luke 21:28 tells us, when these things begin to come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. So we have the answers on what to do by Yahushua. That's the point. And we know what to expect based on what Yahushua has given us and what the whole book says. Waiting for the implementation of the mark of the beast, which is very close. Once that happens, we know that a nuclear war will happen very, very soon after that. So that's what we're waiting for. And what Yahushua coming back to deliver his elect from that destruction that Babylon grave will go through, which is America. And Yahushua coming back to deliver his elect of the nation of Israel from that destruction, which us brothers hope to be a part of. So that's what we're waiting for. So Lord's Roy brothers out there edified. Yahweh, Bashim Yahushai, Bashim Kakarash Bakathum. Shalom.